Hello and welcome to DroiX. In this video we are comparing the DroiX branded Proteus 10 Intel i5 and 10S Intel i7 mini PC models. We will be performing a series of system and gaming benchmarks to see the difference in performance. If you missed our first video covering the unboxing and overview of the Proteus mini PC, you can find it linked in the video description or towards the end of the video. First, a very brief look at the technical specifications for both models. The Proteus 10 features an Intel i5 10310U CPU running up to 4.4 GHz. The 10S features the Intel i7 10510U running up to 4.9 GHz. Both feature the Intel UHD Graphics, which runs up to 1.15 GHz. Depending on the configuration, you can have 16 or 32 gigs of DDR4 2666 MHz RAM and up to 1 TB of fast M.2 PCI-e NVMe SSD. Both models have fast Gigabit Ethernet, Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.2. PassMark performs a series of tests to gauge the performance of CPU, GPU, RAM and storage under full load. It's more of an artificial test to see the best performance levels. The Proteus 10 scores 2433 with reasonable scores for CPU and GPU and very good scores for the RAM and storage. The Proteus 10S scores 2460. This gives us a score difference of around 1.1%, which is next to nothing. PCMark is more of a real-world series of tests, which can include day-to-day tasks such as web browsing, video conferencing, media consumption, working with Office documents and image editing. The Proteus 10 scores 3766. The Proteus 10S scores 3836. This gives us a score difference of around 1.8%, which again is very little. 3DMark tests the CPU and GPU together for its graphics rendering capabilities. Graphics rendering is not just for gaming, but also for media decoding and image editing. The Proteus 10 scores 395 and the Proteus 10S scores 402. This gives us a score difference of around 1.7%. They're not the highest scores by far, but are good for a mini PC of this specification. Although the Proteus is primarily for home and office work, it is also capable of some gaming. In these benchmarks, we will be testing the mini PCs beyond their capabilities, so we can compare. Normally, you would be running these games at lower graphics settings, as it does not have a dedicated graphics card. In this test, we are running Forza Horizon 4 at 720p on ultra settings to really stress the CPU and GPU. You would run this game on a more reasonable lower settings. The Proteus 10 scores 11 frames per second and the 10S also scores 11 frames per second. We could run the benchmarks a few times and maybe get slightly different results, so we'll call this one a draw. We are running Street Fighter 5 at 720p with maximum settings, again to fully test the capabilities. We would recommend using a mix of a few low and mostly medium settings for a 60 solid FPS. Both get an average of around 20.5 frames per second at the end of the first match, so again there's not a massive amount of difference. Our last benchmark is for Final Fantasy XIV. We are running this test at 720p with high desktop settings. The Proteus 10 scores 2064 and the Proteus 10S scores 2118. This gives us a score difference of around 2.5%. Let's have a quick reminder of the benchmark results to compare the two models. We can see across the tests that the difference in performance ranges from no difference to 2.5%, which is marginal. Both models' performance are very good for the work environment, whether it be in the office or at home. The DroiX Proteus takes up very little space on your desktop or even in your bag whilst travelling. They are also very energy efficient, using far less energy than a traditional desktop PC. For your day-to-day tasks, from web browsing to media consumption or working with office documents, or even just a mix of them all, the DroiX Proteus comes highly recommended. That wraps up this DroiX Proteus comparison video. We hope you found it useful. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with our latest products. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you back in the next video.